Welcome to this episode of the Gunman. So this video here is part 3 on the LH Torana project that we've done. We've done a full respray on this and it's gone matte black finish. The previous 2 videos have been on how to mix and match the matte finish that you're looking for and also how to paint over chrome. And this video here will be mainly going through some rust repairs, primer work and body filler work. So this is the condition that we received the car in. First step obviously was to strip all the parts off, but before we do that we want to make sure we're not going to lose any of the nuts and bolts and screws and stuff like that. So I always make sure I get these little Ziploc bags and put all of my screws and label them in those bags for the specific parts that it comes off. So I label each bag, left hand front door, right hand front door, bonnet, hood, boot, whatever you want, and then that way when it goes to go back together it makes the job a lot easier. So for this job I just decided to get the bonnet and guards into primer first and then move on with the rest of the job later. It just gets a couple of parts in primer, I can then put them aside and worry about them later while I'm tackling the body, and all those doors that are going to be pulled off are going to be using up panel stands and stuff like that. So that's the reason I decided to do it this way this time. There's no real right or wrong way for which panel you start on, I guess. At the end of the day, you just need every single panel in primer and then you can start tackling your paintwork. Yeah, just think about your drying times with your... I usually like to attack any aggressive rust first. So if you've got to weld patches in, or even if you just got to get some fiberglassing done, I still like to get onto that first. But in this case, I just decided I want to get these panels in primer, put them aside. Alright, it feels like I'm getting some progress on the job. Now I can continue to move on. So there you go, they're in the booth, ready to get some primer on. The repairs that I did on them came up quite nice, and that hood there, or the bonnet, only needed 3 coats of primer, 3 good coats of this Concept Paints primer here. It's a really good quality HS2K primer. It dries quite well, don't get much shrink back at all with it. It sands down nice and easy as well. So there's all these little parts in primer as well, and the fenders come up quite good too. I actually made quite a lot of time-lapse footage when I was painting this car and doing some repairs and primer work in that. So in the coming videos there'll be a few time-lapse videos. One of the other time-lapse videos that I did on a Nissan 180SX was quite popular, so I decided, hey, why not do that again for some of those longer scenes where I'm actually doing a lot of work and it'd take hours and hours worth of editing and I'd have so much footage. I decided, hey, I'll just make some time lapse. So that's something to look forward into the coming videos. But this video here, I'll be going through some of the rust repairs that I've done on the body here. Again, as I said earlier, I decided to attack these. Just get the grinder onto them, just grind all of that rust out that I can, and then get some of that rust converter on there, which should be left at least 24 hours before doing any repairs over the top of them or putting any filler or primer over the top of it, because it's a water-based rust killer. As you can see, there's a big hole there. We ended up just fiberglassing it up and just covering it with that rust killer, and hopefully we'll buy at least 5 years out of it. The owner knows exactly everything that I've done on this car, and he is realistic about what he wanted out of it. I've got nothing to hide. I did pretty good work. I'm happy with the work I've done and I'm not ashamed of any of it. I did a good job on all of that rust without going to the next stage and fabricating and welding in new panels, which can get quite time consuming and obviously expensive as well. So this is the rust converter that I used, really good one. It really just changes that rust into a primed surface. You really do want to remove any of that loose rust before you go and put this stuff on. Don't just find some rust, spray it on and expect that it's going to do its job. You really want to remove any loose rust, any surface rust, and then you put it on. Leave it for at least a day. I mean, the weather may change your drying times. If you're in a really cold environment, maybe try and get some heat onto it. You don't want to get it too hot or else it'll actually just start bubbling it. But just get a little bit of nice heat onto it, and then that might speed up the process. In the middle of summer, you might be able to say put it on in the morning. In that afternoon, it might be right to put some primer over. But I do make sure I say that a few times, because I've actually had it go bad on me. And if you go and paint over that before it's dry, because it's water based, the water's got nowhere to go underneath your solvent paint, and it will make fry ups and reactions and stuff like that. So yeah, just going around, now that I've got it on the body, I then just pushed the car to the side and decided to jump onto these door panels here. So same thing, look, there was a lot of rust on these doors. I've absolutely done my best to buy him as many years as he can, but you know, need be, in 5 years I'll just do a touch up for him. It won't need a full repaint at that point, I wouldn't imagine anyway. He might just bring it back and say, look, there's 1 or 2 spots here that have come back, not much you can do about it, short of sandblasting the entire car or paint stripping the entire car, taking everything off, exposing loads of old repairs, which is going to probably double or triple the size of the job. The quote is all going to go up. You really can't quote a job like that. You've just got to give the customer a rough idea of where it's going to be at, but you can't really quote it, because you could end up shooting yourself in the foot and finding that there's, you know, you're working for weeks and weeks for not much money at all, because you've said, oh, this is exactly how much it's going to cost you. So look, there's nothing wrong with doing it this way. I can rest my head at night knowing that I haven't ripped anyone off, and the work that I've done is quite good. So moving on with the job, I'm just using the brush this time, just to make sure that rust killer is going to penetrate in as far as I can. You really want as much of that stuff on there. Don't be shy with it, you know. A $50 bottle of rust killer is definitely a lot cheaper than having to fix rust patches in the future. So what you see me doing here is, I thought I'd got most of it removed. However, then I saw one just little raised section when I was sanding it down, just a circle. So I thought, you know what, to me that looks like rust, and sure enough it was. And one thing I've learnt with rust, that if it looks like a match head above the surface, well, then you're going to have a tennis ball underneath the surface. So that kind of a size, yeah, it's always bigger than what it looks like on the surface. As you can see here, it's becoming quite apparent what I was talking about before. Yeah, it gets a lot bigger once you go through, and look, there's a lot of body filler in these old panels as well. But look, we've given them a new lease on life. Real world, get 5 years out of it. I'm happy. I'm happy that I could also be able to refinish this car. Being that it's a matte finish, it will obviously encounter some troubles. It's not just going to be like any other car. You know, like, you're going to have to match your matteness as well and the color, but I know exactly how I did it, so I'm pretty sure I'll be able to match it in the future. And if it turns out that it's not me that has to refinish it in the future and it's someone else, all I have to do is watch these videos that I've been putting on YouTube. So I'm using 80 grit to rip right into those repairs before I start putting any body filler in. However, before I finish it off for primer, I've decided to start finishing all my repairs off with 180 grit. That's not going to allow any shrink back with your primer, especially when you're going over paints. So look, some people do say, oh, it's not recommended to put body filler over paint unless it's a fine filler, but look, it can be done if you do it properly and you finish it off fine enough. So the worst thing that will happen is that if you finish this repair off with, say, 80 grit, and then you go and prime over that 80 grit over the OEM finish, or the previous finish, then there's a good chance that the primer is going to shrink back into those 80 grit scratches. But if you take that right back down to 180 grit, I wouldn't go any finer than 180 grit, or else you start ruining your repair. So if you go to 240, you actually take too much out of it, and it'll start going a little bit wonky or wobbly. That's just about it for this video. The next video is going to be sanding that filler out of all these panels, and that's going to be in time lapse, and also getting these panels in primer, also that's going to be in time lapse. So I decided to put another little bit of footage here. This is just prior, so this is before it was fixed, and this is after, so there's a bit of a before and after for you guys. And this is how it left our workshop. Again, to keep prices down for some of our customers, we just do what we're specialised in, which is panel and paint. So that's just repair those panels, sit them back on, get them painted, and then the customer can finish all those little fiddly bits of work off, all their trim works, put all their glasses back in themselves and stuff like that, and it keeps prices down, keeps everyone happy. So I managed to get a couple of pics off the owner. He whacked these up on Facebook, and it's coming together nicely. He's got his nice alloy drop tank in, and you can see he's got some of those front parts on as well. That nose panel wasn't on the car when it left us. Hopefully by the time I get around to making the next video, it will be further along in the process and you guys will be able to continue following. He's going to put a 308 with a turbo on it, so a 5-litre turbo engine as far as I know, as long as that sticks to plan. But stay tuned and that will all be in the following vids. Now you've seen this video, get out there and paint some shit. Thanks for watching, guys. This has been another Gunman production. Goodbye.